For years, building an app meant gluing a lot of things together. You might have your data living in one place, your app built somewhere else, and your automations tying it all together. Not only was this messy, but it also came with limitations. For example, API limits might be met, or you could have only a certain number of automations that were allowed to run at a time. And this slowed down your app considerably. But thanks to massive improvements with these tools over the last few years, we can now build all of this in one place. And so in this video, I'm going to break down for you the most important component of building every app. It is the data layer. I'm going to show you how to build a relational database, and we're going to do the whole thing in Softr. So if learning more about building your own relational database is of interest to you, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth, and this is Gap Consulting. It's my mission here to help you unlock the full potential of no-code tools. This channel usually focuses on Airtable-first architecture, but as the tools are evolving, we are embracing other tools more and more. Tools like Fillout, Zapier, Make, and of course, in this video, we're talking about Softr. Softr is the front end for many of the apps that we've built over the last 5 to 10 years. But recently, they have also become a very powerful option for your back end, your data layer. And that's exactly what we're covering in this video. We're going to be breaking down what a relational database is and how you go about building one in Softr. But before I get to the heart of things, I first want to invite you to follow along with me. On your screen right now, I'm sharing with you the steps you can take to activate a free promotional offer from Softr to get their pro tier for 1 month for free. This is over $100 worth of value. So if you are not yet a paying customer of Softr and you want to get started and test all this out, this is the perfect way for you to do it. Follow along the steps that you see on your screen right here. And of course, it's also an awesome way for you to show some love back to the channel and allow us to continue doing videos like this. But now let's jump into the heart of the video, and we have to talk about what a relational database is. There are really 3 core components of a database that you need to understand before you ever start building. The first one is, what is a table? So inside of a relational database, you are going to be able to build as many tables as you would like. Each table represents a set of data. It's an entity, if you will. So for an example, and to put some concrete terms to it, let's imagine that we are building a solution where we have people on our team and we need to manage their tasks. But the tasks don't live in a vacuum. The tasks are related to project work. Now, I've kind of given it away by identifying the 3 core tables that we are going to have here. Each one of these things is an entity. That is people, the people in our organization. They are related to the tasks that we're going to be assigning. But those tasks are also related to the projects that they are a part of. And so the key takeaway for this, when understanding tables in a relational database, each element is its own layer, and those tables exist separately, but they can be connected. So when you're building a relational database, think about the different sets of data that you have that are going to need to interact. In this case, we have the people, the tasks, and the projects. Now, the next layer to understand is the record layer. Inside of every table, we have a set of data, and we will have many records within that table. Each record represents one element within that particular table. So in the case of projects as one of our tables, every record that we create will be a representation of another project in our system. If we're working on 20 different projects at a time, you'll have 20 records in the project table. Similarly, we have our tasks table. Every record here is its own unique task. So each task that we add in the tasks table will be its own record. And similarly, every single record in the people table or contacts table is another person within our organization who might be assigned a task or a project. Now that we understand tables and the records that live inside of them, the final core component of a database is the relationship. And this is where a database really expands beyond what a traditional or flat spreadsheet is capable of doing. Relationships allow us to link the tables together. The third component means that our projects are related to our tasks. Our people, our contacts, are related to or assigned to tasks. So by connecting the different tables together through relationships in a database, we can now infer the relationship that exists throughout the different components of our data. And this is usually the hardest part for new database builders to understand. When we are building our first database, making sure not only to set up the right tables, but also building the proper relationships between those tables so that we are able to connect data appropriately within our system. Now that we've defined at a high level what a database is all about, let's actually jump in and build one. I'm going to show you exactly how easy it is to do it in Softr. We're not even going to use the AI component. Do note, of course, that we could start with a template, but for us, we're going to start from scratch. I want to build this natively, and as I mentioned, we're going to build it directly in Softr. The advantage to doing this, instead of just building our app in Softr, when we put our data layer in Softr as well, it increases the efficiency of the app when we go live. Because of the fact that Softr no longer has to query a third-party database and the data lives directly in Softr, our app is going to be faster, snappier, more responsive. So let's build in Softr databases and continue. It's going to take just a moment to create the app, and what we first see is just a generic starting place for our app. We have these different pages: home, list, item details, and form. And then we have the utility pages like onboarding flow, login, account settings, etc. None of this matters at our data layer level. This is all front-facing stuff that we can completely ignore for the purpose of this video. We want to get to that data layer. So let's put this aside, and up at the top, next to interface, we're going to select data. This is the data that we have inside of this app. And right now, you see that we have nothing. So we need to create our first database. Now on the left-hand side of my screen, you'll see that I have a ton of different data sources that I'm allowed to or available to use inside of my app because I've been building in Softr for years. But for us, we want to create a new database. We want to add a new data source. So we click this plus, select Softr Databases, and continue. This now creates the database layer that will be available inside of our app should we want to publish an app with it as well. Now, the first thing you'll notice is our first table. Because we are building this database from scratch, it's going to start with one table with 3 simple fields. A field in a database is a column. It is a data point that you can enter on behalf of a record. But I'm getting ahead of ourselves just a little bit. We need to start with our tables. There was a reason that this was the first point that I brought up when discussing relational databases. So, our tables, if you recall, projects, tasks, and people. Let's start by just creating those tables. I'll double-click here to rename my table, and this will be my projects. Saving that up, we can click the plus here to add another blank table, and this one we will name to be tasks. And then lastly, follow those steps again for people. Now we have to structure the data inside of each of these tables. This can be done pretty quickly, or we can take hours and hours to get it exactly right. For us, since we're just building an example, I'm going to go with the abridged version. So inside of people, I already have a name field. As an example, if I were in this database, you would see my name like this. Notice that we can reorganize or resize the fields, and we can remove fields if they're not relevant. Simply by clicking on the arrow, we can delete it and remove it from the table. We might keep a status field for people. If we're building an app, we might choose to have a status field that is either active or inactive. So we can make these changes here, and this is all at the data layer. We can assign colors that are relevant, so I could say inactive is red and active is green, and let's set a default option so that any new person added will take the default value of active. We make those updates, and we'll have to update me to be active in our system. Another thing that you'll find in most people tables is going to be an email address. Notice that we can add a new field here, and we can choose the type of data that will live in this field. Now, this is really important. There are two key types of data for every relational database. There is data that we add directly into a field, and then there is data that is computed or derived through some sort of calculation. Most of the fields here that you're going to find are going to be the first kind, which is independent data, data that we can write to. A checkbox where I can click it or unclick it. A percentage where I just fill in a number. A URL where I can plug in a link or an email address. This is what we need for our example. Let's go ahead and set up that email field. But the other types of information that we might include are derived from other things. We could use a lookup that looks up information that exists in another table through a linked relationship. Or we might have something like a record ID, which is metadata that is assigned to every record in the database. These are slightly more advanced topics that we can go into detail on in future videos, but for now, let's keep it simple and focus on the basics. We have our name, the status, and the email address of the user. Now, simply put, we would build out these fields in our tasks and projects as well. But let me just quickly come in and add projects, just a couple of names. I'll go project 1, I'll copy this down, and we'll update it to 2 and to 3. So I've got a couple projects. You can imagine I put in some tasks and some people. Now, the third component that we have to take into consideration for our database is the most important one, and some people would say the most difficult. Linking the relationships between the different data components, the different data sets. So, people, they're assigned to tasks. We need to add that linked relationship, and we do that by adding a field, and if we scroll down to relations, we can add a related record. So we can add people and connect the people records to tasks. We add the related record, and then we choose the table that we are relating to. In this case, tasks. And of course, we could set up some options, some more advanced components here that I'll disregard for simplicity. Let's go ahead and save those changes, and you'll now see that we can add lookup fields. Lookup fields, as I was mentioning, are derived from the linked relationship. Again, to keep things simple, we'll ignore this for now and just skip it. But now we can add tasks directly to our people. And similarly, we might also assign people to projects. So we could build the same relationship here, to projects, connect it to the projects table, and again, we'll skip this. And you'll see that now I can go in and I see a link or a relationship to the projects that we have created in the projects table. So I can assign a person to a project at the database layer just like that. Now, of note, when we build a relationship from one thing to another, in this case, people to the projects table, the opposite of that relationship also becomes true. So when we go to the projects table, because we connected people to projects, projects is also connected to people. So you'll see now, although we didn't manually add that field here in the projects table, it exists because we added the link from people to projects. And so anything that we add here, if we add Gareth to project 2 as well, you'll see that reflected in both places. Projects link to people, and people link to projects. So when we make a change in one place, it will be reflected in both. And that is a key to relational database building. Now, we've accomplished our main goal in this video, which was to understand how to build a relational database. The key components of tables, records, and then linking or relating the tables to each other. We also broke down how you could add different fields to your database layer and understanding how that will play into the relationships as well, being able to look up that information through different layers, along with other more complicated derived values that we didn't get into in the video. But as an added bonus, let's consider what we actually do with this database now that it's built. Inside of Softr, if we go back to the interface layer, why do we build all of this? Because we want to give people access to information. So we can quite simply come into Softr and add elements from that database by going into Dynamic here, adding a new block, and we can add information from our table. So let's suppose, for example, we wanted to look at a stacked view of all the projects. Right here, I've connected to the Softr database. It's going to ask me which database I want to connect to. I choose the one that we just built. I choose then the table that I care about showing. And just like this, we now see projects 1, 2, and 3. Now, of course, these projects would have a lot more information. The start date, who's in charge, all of these components can also be mapped here by adding the different content from the data layer to the app. And then when we're done, we can publish this app and allow people to see exactly the information that we want them to see, allow them to edit or take action inside of the app for exactly the components that we want to give them permission to access. So that's your little bonus on top of the database layer. Once you're done building the data layer, that's just the start. It might be the most difficult part, but when you get it right, you're 90% of the way done to building a fully functioning app inside of Softr. I hope you got a ton of value from this video, and if you have questions that we did not address, swing by our website. We have a ton of resources available, and we offer a free strategy consultation to help you get aligned with the next steps for your next database or no-code app. So if you're looking for a little assistance, sign up for that inquiry, and we can get you squared away and pointed toward the next best steps. If you enjoy this content, of course, we'd love a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, keep on building.